What is the energy of self-judgment, of self-criticism? We often have it nowadays, this kind of relentless sense that we are not enough, that we are inherently flawed, inherently imperfect, that we're not good. And you see, this energy of self-criticism, it often doesn't create a sense of well-being. Instead, it rather pulls us down to denseness, into heaviness. It makes us ruminative. It paralyzes us with a feeling that whatever we do, it will never be sufficient. That whatever moment, whatever circumstance we find ourselves in, it will never be enough. It won't be enough for feeling good, for feeling, you know, satiety. You see, this kind of outlook of relentless self-judgment, it stems from a refusal to accept oneself unconditionally. It stems from a refusal to look at yourself and to like yourself. It's a refusal to understand. It's a refusal to love. You see, if we wish to think ourselves as capable of loving anything or anyone, we first must always begin with ourselves. We must begin the process of loving ourselves as we are right now. You shouldn't have to wait for the future to achieve whatever conditions that you have set for yourself to feel worthy of love. You really have to begin this process of loving right now. The process of loving is always an activity, a practice that is done in the now, in the moment. And we must learn to love ourselves, because if we do not, we will not be capable of properly loving another being. You see, much of the harm, the evil that is inflicted in this world has its roots in a lack of self-love. You see, a person who does not feel love for themselves will often seek to pull others down with them, to give them an illusory sense of power or illusory sense of well-being. But this doesn't last. It causes harm. It inflicts suffering in the world. It traumatizes. And you see, we often traumatize ourselves with our self-judgment day in, day out. We judge ourselves endlessly when we feel that we haven't achieved enough, when we don't have enough money or this or that thing. We tell ourselves we aren't attractive enough, that we're not fit enough, that we're not healthy enough. You see, it is healthy to have within yourself a motivation to improve, to heal, to sort of transcend your lower patterns into higher patterns, to feel better. But we must not forget that this process of feeling better begins in the now. But I feel that much of people's self-improvement, there's the desire to heal, to feel better. It doesn't stem from love. It stems from really a deeply rooted sense of dissatisfaction, of pain in the now. They're not motivated by an aspiration for joy, but by the pain of insufficiency. And we should seriously contemplate the deep causes of our movement, of our engagement in the world. Is our movement motivated by joy, or is it motivated by a desire to get away from pain? You see, true health will always create a kind of movement which is motivated by joy, which is motivated by curiosity, by exploration. You're moving through the world, you're flowing through it, you're surfing through it. If you're in a stress state where you're trying to get away from problems or solve problems that you've created for yourself, this isn't a flowing state of mind to being. It's a very fragmented, it's very rigid, very tense state of being. And I think, you see, many people live their lives thinking in terms of problems. They live their life, there's this endless cycling list of problems to solve. They see a problem here, a problem there, and their life becomes this endless cycle of solving problems. They solve one, another arises, and when they solve that one, another arises, and they live like this. But this is a very draining way of being. There's no rest in this state. There's only constant activity. And this way of being this disposition towards relentless problem solving, and naturally leads to burnout. It depletes one's resources because there is no balance. It is constant striving, constant movement without rest. And many people cannot rest. They cannot think themselves as capable of resting because there's always problems lingering in their heads, the things that they feel they must do, and they cannot allow themselves just to simply be. But what if, imagine for a moment, what if there is a way of being where there just isn't a problem to solve? Your imagination isn't conjuring up all the stuff that you need to do. What if there is a way of being where you are simply in the now, as it is? You're not thinking of the future. You're not thinking of the past. You're not thinking at all. There is silence. There is acceptance. And really, if we drill down into it, acceptance is looking at the now and not seeing a problem, not seeing something to do, something to solve. You're just simply being with it. And this is a very foreign state of consciousness in our modern culture, which conditions people into this ridiculous and relentless busyness. We are constantly busy, always doing something, always productive, always ticking to-do lists. This isn't a healthy way of being. We've been conditioned into a kind of, just a normalization of this way of being, but it's very unnatural. And we naturally pay a price. Our bodies pay the price with burnout, with fatigue, with metabolic disorder, with inflammation. But we've been so fervently conditioned to accept this state of constant busyness, this constant lack of time to rest. It's ridiculous. The 9 to 5, working 5 or 6 days a week, we've been conditioned to think that work is good, that busyness is good, that productivity is good. But is this the world that we wish to create for our children? A world of relentless busyness with no time to rest? I do not feel that it is a good or healthy world. It's not conducive to our flourishing at all. And this constant busyness that is, pathological of our culture, it makes us view ourselves in the similar lens as a problem to solve. There's no rest outside of oneself, and there's also no rest with oneself. There is no acceptance. There is no rest. There is no slowing down. We look at ourselves and we think, I could change this, I could change that. That part of me isn't good. I can improve on that thing, and we look at ourselves with this insatiable self-examination, this kind of self-improvement treadmill where, we think we're moving forward, but we're not. We're not going anywhere because the root sense of internal dissatisfaction is never addressed. Acceptance and its essence is the motion to rest. It is, a lack of motion perhaps. It is the motion to simply be, to not see a problem to solve, to see the moment, the now, simply as it is. And I think it's very important for us to look at our movement in the world, to look at our balance between rest and activity. Because if we are not properly balancing the two to find a nice, stable equilibrium, we will fall into excess, whether it's excessive rest or excessive activity. We need sleep. We need to slow down sometimes. It's very important. But yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. Hope that's been interesting and insightful. And enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye.